because that kind of reminds me of Monster Hunter. On Monster Hunter World, what do you call it? Capcom created a DLC. Well, it wasn't DLC. It's free DLC, but it's a boss that they added later on called the Elatrion. So the Elatrion was a very hard fight because it had this mechanic where if you didn't do enough elemental damage to it within a certain period of time, it would just kill you. It would just wipe you. Basically, kind of like a raid boss from like Final Fantasy or World of Warcraft or whatever. If you didn't meet the requirements or whatever, you would just die.
Mm-hmm.
So people didn't know how to fight him. They didn't know how to, you know, bait out certain attacks or how to punish the boss for, attacking a certain way, or like the boss had a lot of openings. It's truly one of my favorite fights, and just in video game in general, it beats out some Dark Souls bosses for me, and
Oh
just
wow.
because of how well designed it was. And the fact of that mechanic, the threat of that mechanic instant wiping you just because you're not doing enough elemental damage is I don't know, I feel like they should do more bosses like that in action RPG games rather than, specifically in MMOs and those types of games, because you having complete control in an action RPG game just makes the fight so much more fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how else to explain it. It's just the mechanics were well designed because the boss gives you the openings, but he doesn't like I'm trying to think of how to word it. He gives you the openings, but you have to take the openings. I don't know if I'm making any sense. Like the openings are there, but you have to take advantage of them. Every time he attacks you, there is a specific way that you can retaliate and counterattack him depending on how you're fighting. And for the most part, that's the fight. It's not even about doing the DPS that you need to do and, on his elemental side in order to beat him. It's more so learning how to dance with the ball. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if I'm making any sense. It just
Yeah.
feels like a dance. You're
Rhythm.
you're going back and forth, you're counterattacking, and it's such a fun fight. Very well designed. And I wish there were more bosses and fights like that in gaming.
I don't know too much about Monster Hunter. I have, I played a few of them. I really couldn't get into them, but I could definitely see how they can be compared to Dark Souls. But I don't want to get into what I don't like about the game and why I don't get it, why I just haven't gotten
Oh
into
no.
it. But
Yeah, Monster Hunter is like a it's one of those games that you either click with it and you like it, or it's just not for you.
yeah,
It's that binary. It's very difficult for somebody who doesn't really click with it, doesn't really like it, to just, I don't know, get into it.
I don't know. I mean, heck, I tried Monsters Unite, and it's just for some reason there's a particular spot in the Monster Hunter games I get to, and I just totally lose interest. I don't know if it's just the little weird objectives you got to do, um, or maybe it's just the way the boss fights are designed. I don't know. I just, um,
No, no, listen, I completely understand. Believe me, there's so many people that, you know, they would love to actually play the game because obviously, you see other people having fun with it. You want to see what this is about,
mhm.
but you just can't get into it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just
Yep.
not, you know,
I don't know if it's
not.
just I don't have the patience with it because I just want to because I'd rather put more time into the Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Sekiro games. I don't know if it's because of that. When it just comes to playing other games, I just have less patience with it. I don't know. I mean, heck, I've been playing. I just got The Last of Us Part One upgrade for the PS5, and I I immediately played on grounded mode, and I'm already just putting a bunch of time into studying and figuring out how to get that through that without using ammo or taking damage in the encounters. I'm like, well, how come I can put time into this, but when it comes to Monster Hunter, I just don't. I just lose patience so quickly.
I completely listen, man. I tell you, I completely understand. This happens to a lot of people with Monster Hunter. It's just it either clicks and you kind of understand that, the gameplay loop and you like it, or
Mm-hmm.
it just doesn't. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in Monster Hunter, I mean, whenever I like properly calculating my attacks, like with the heavier weapons, just getting that nice little slam in the monster's face is really fun. But I think it's maybe when the monsters start running away is what really pulls me back.
Oh, I got you. So it's whereas in most like Souls games, for example, there's no retreat mechanic. The bosses are always, hey, I'm here to try to kill you. Whereas in Monster Hunter, they do have that moment where it's not about you. They just either want to survive or they have other stuff going on where they want to go after other creatures, and
Mm-hmm.
I get that. I think I get that.
It could be a blue balls effect because you get in the heat of battle, you got a rhythm going, and then all of a sudden the boss is like, oh, I'm gonna go walk over here. You gotta chase me down for a few minutes. I
Yeah.
think that's what happens because I keep imagining, I'm like, what would happen if I walked into the Margit fight and he just decides to take off in the Limgrave and I have to go look for him, find him again, and then just end up dying, and then I gotta do that whole process all over again. I probably wouldn't like Elden Ring as much.
Probably not.
So that could be it. I just don't like chasing things around. I just want them to fight me and learn. It's because one thing I can't stand is just maybe time wasting. Just I don't know. Just chasing the bosses just isn't for me, I guess.
No, I get it. And in previous Monster Hunter games, there was definitely a lot of that. Like half of the time that you would be spending on the hunt wouldn't actually be fighting the monster, it would be doing other stuff like collecting stuff around the map or chasing or trying to locate the monster. So that was half of the stuff that you did in Monster Hunter and the old Monster Hunter games.
And is it?
And the new ones, they sort of are streamlining it a little bit. Like, and for example, in Monster Hunter Rise, uh, you always know where the monster is, like as soon as you start the match. So it's kind of like I don't like that as much. I kind of prefer the old way where, you have to track the monster and figure out where it was. And, I like that. But again, it's the type of gameplay loop that it either clicks with you and you like it or
Yeah.
you don't.
And I'm not interested in taking anything away from Monster Hunter. I understand people play these games in order to hunt the monster, and anything that simulates a hunt is fantastic. And is like my cousin. I'm trying to get him on the podcast so we can talk about old Lego games. He loves Monster Hunter. He likes it a lot more than Dark Souls. And I've mentioned these criticisms I have to him. He was like, "Oh man, it's a game. When the monster runs away, it's like a hunt. They need to go away and to recuperate themselves. It just adds more atmosphere to the fight." And I'm like, "Yeah, I get that. It's just I don't know. I don't want that."
Right. Yeah, it's not for you. And there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.